So this is the panel with the topic Visual Horizons, AI's Journey into Documentary. And I think we just saw a fantastic idea about how this could be going. And I'm really curious to see what we think, how this will continue, or if this is already the start of our future.
Or the end.
Or the end. Maybe you can just go home and stop discussing AI in documentary. No, let's stay and just give it a try. So let me introduce Alan, who is an immersive. Oh man, sorry. And now I have chaos in my papers. Alan is the head of XR market at the NewImages festival in Paris, and she just returned from that festival. She works closely with industry professionals to facilitate co-production and co-financing for immersive projects in development, as well as finished content for distribution. She's also an experienced XR producer and programmer with a focus on exhibitions in art museums. A very warm welcome, Ellen. Great to have you here. So Mats, you already know. Then we have Robin here, Robin Burgauer. He is producer and co-founder of Inlusio Interactive from Switzerland. And he has produced and co-directed cinema documentaries in co-production with European broadcasters and National Geographic. And since 2012, he has focused on the creative of interactive story formats based on dramaturgical principles from the film industry, and was awarded several times. And in 2019, he co-founded Inlusio Interactive, which creates innovative interactive formats such as VR films, games, and interactive graphic novels on socially relevant topics. A very warm welcome, Robin. And then we have Simon. Simon Staffans is the producer and CEO of the Finnish production company ReThink New Media Solutions. He has over 30 years of experience in all areas of the media industry, ranging from radio and newspaper journalism to documentaries, entertainment, TV formats, as well as 360 and VR experiences. And over the past 2 years, Simon's increasingly been applying generative AI in productions. So this is what we will speak about today. Very warm welcome. And I would like to start with a quick round of the three of you about your vision and idea, what AI and generative AI could maybe add to documentary filmmaking, how you might want to use it, or what is your idea about how this is going? And who wants to start?
Well, I can start, I guess, since I've been working with it a little bit. So yeah, I mean, one obvious aspect is, of course, generative AI and how to use it to enhance whatever it is you're doing. It's possible to, as we've used in documentaries, to actually create some stuff that hasn't been around before. We helped out Swedish television with a documentary about an evangelical movement in the late 19th century. Now the leader of that evangelical movement, Lars Leiville Stadius, there was only one picture existing of him. Well, now there are two pictures existing of him. Of course, we need to be very clear that that picture is AI generated, so future people don't, or future creators don't look at it as authentic footage. But that's just one aspect. I believe that AI can help us with a lot of other stuff. AI agents can do research for us. AI avatars can be our face towards the general audience if we don't have the time ourselves to connect and to be to have our own persona be the face of whatever we're working on. So there are a lot of applications possible.
Thanks a lot. Robin, what do you think? Oh, you don't have. Do we have more mics? Then still Ellen doesn't have, but we can maybe just give it to each other. So, but you need now one, Robin.
Yes, I mean, I think we just saw a wonderful example how you can really embed AI to help you create something new. I think what we realized using AI in the last 18 months that generative artificial intelligence can really be a help for exploration and research, as Simon said, because in the beginning we started with a very naive enthusiasm that we thought, oh well, we have the baseline ready for the story we want to tell. Now, ChatGPT, please write us the story, pretty much. And then we realized, well, it's not that simple. So that the creativity really stays with the storytellers and the creatives. But AI, I think, can be a wonderful tool to help you in the process. It can be your sparring partner for research and exploration. It can help you to distract information, a lot of information which is out there. So we kind of went from Googling to prompting. I think especially in documentary where research is a big part and you might have piles of documents or tons of books you want to read, all of a sudden that can be summarized in a second, and of course you have to check that and prove that and not take that as a granted what comes out, but it just helps you as a tooling to kind of get there where you want and to understand the world better, and then from there go into content creation where the creativity is still in your head, but you use it as a sparring partner to get there, to understand the world better. And I think that synthesized knowledge AI can give us is just, I think, beyond what we had before, where like everything you had to Google and go to these links, and to understand the world in a synthesized way, I think can be a huge improvement for all creatives and storytellers.
Thanks a lot.
To pick up from Robin, my personal reflection would be actually on in the production process. AI is kind of getting there for many animators or coders, or the AI process is kind of, I would say, scary. I don't know. I think we had a chat earlier this week before this panel that, for instance, Unreal Engine put out a platform to provide a lot of very high quality AI generated images and assets, and all of a sudden everyone's saying the animators would lose their job. Very much like when AI is coming to workforce. So we talk about HR people or general administrative people might lose their job. So it's a trend, but coming back to what my colleagues just mentioned, it's about your creative still stay there. It just helps accelerate your creativity process. On the other hand, when I mentioned this to my colleagues in France, they are not very happy to. I think it's a very traditional or very cultural concept in terms of production process. On the other hand, I would like to just highlight a few projects related to AI creativity, meaning using AI as a creative medium in the immersive world. I think the AI has been there forever. Siri, all these we use every day, and so there are two dimensions for me. One is in the production process. The other is actually using AI in the immersive world. So the first one that sort of served out was in 2020, New Frontier, Chomsky versus Chomsky by Sandra Rodriguez. She's based in Montreal. Her project didn't really get finalized, and I only saw it last October in Montreal. Was supported by the National Film Board of Canada that then later went bankrupt. They closed their immersive team, unfortunately. And then in 2023, last year, a couple of AI generated content actually came out. You have In Search of Time, Tribeca, according to their description. It is actually the very first uses generative to create a unique immersive VR experience. But it was an AI generated filmmaking. It's not in the headset, it's on the screen. So according to them, it's the very first AI generated film. And then later, the same director, he also put one showcase in IDFA Dark Lab, The Vivid Unknown. So a couple of projects are coming out. Of course, the highlight would be the one that premiered at Venice. It's Tapamanker. I always have difficulties to say it. It's actually you sit down in the computer and answer all the questions, personal questions from the past, your current, your future, and based on these answers become prompts, and then we will immediately generate a VR experience for you on the spot. So the same team also created a AI-generated VR experience that showcased in South by in March this year. Well, this is a little bit what I gathered in during the last 3-5 years. The AI, using AI as a creativity approach for content creation in our small and humble VR world.
Thank you so much. So as far as I understood, maybe even all of you, your idea is rather to use AI in a broader sense to enhance creativity, to maybe get inspired, but not to just 101 make it documentary for us. Oh, Mats, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just think it's important that we differentiate AI a little bit and define it, because it becomes a word we throw around, and then are we thinking about a chatbot we're talking to, or is it a language model, or is it a visual model, or transformer, etc., etc. There are so many different levels where you use machine learning and AI. Voiceover is one model that we use for Herzog. Deep faking his face is a different model. There are tens of different language models implied in how we made the text. So, and for as a producer, creative technologist, when you work with a film, I think what you're trying to figure out is how can the specific idea that this film wants to convey, how can I use the best tools at hand? And that could be an AI. I think sometimes, for instance, I'm working now with a film, a documentary in Denmark, very high-scale documentary, DR National Broadcaster. They want to resurrect the woman, a mother of the main character, so he can confront his own mother again. And they have a lot of letters from his childhood, and they have his voice, they have her voice, they have her image. And so now you suddenly actually have this opportunity that you never had before, where you could theoretically and practically, you could resurrect her in her own image to make her say things to the son that she's never said before. And you can film that on a classic 2D, a normal camera, and create something completely unique for this specific documentary. And I think that's a way for me, at least, to think about it, is how do we use it now for our advantage in the storytelling practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think we mainly discuss generative AI right now just because I think this is even the reason why we are speaking today and tomorrow about AI and documentary filmmaking, because of generative AI caused this hype, everyone trying to find out what to do with that technology. And what you said, I found that really interesting, because you said, of course, as soon as you have a lot of sources like letters, things people said, speeches, movies, whatever, you can train an AI finding patterns in these things and then produce something that is similar. But as you said, we will, or as you maybe haven't said, but I felt like you were about, as I say, let's do this. You can never know if this person would have said that, right? Like we saw Stephen Fry saying, no, I wouldn't have said that. That sounds strange. And I guess this was something you produced with GPT-2 out of things he said before?
I can't tell you that.
Oh, you don't know what he was reading? Was it GPT-2? Oh, you don't want to talk about that. Okay, so I
kind of part of the film that you never know which is which. So
yeah, I mean that's amazing. So many of my questions are now obsolete because this was what I wanted to know. But yeah, I mean, as we can maybe see with this film, and I was impressed that you were using GPT-2, which was a really early model compared to now GPT-4, that you could get some coherence at least in that movie. And you said, or there was written that people only could change what the AI made to get more coherence, right? I feel like this is something you would have done all of the time, because coherence is really hard for these models still today.
Yeah, they hallucinate a lot, but funnily enough, like the qualities of what came out of GPT-2, seen from a artistic perspective, were much more interesting. There were a lot more things that seemed just very unique. And later, when we started doing rewrites of the script with GPT-3 and 4, we started feeling that icky AI language sneak into our script. So so that was actually like an interesting thing that we used it, but we used it to really try to just make sure that we have bridges between, oh, this scene and that scene, what's going to happen here? We're going to ask the model what can happen between these two, you know.
Yeah, and now AI is too well educated, kind of, or has too many filters, and so sometimes it's not that creative. I mean, that's an interesting question. Is this even creativity? What we see, maybe the question to all of you is AI creative, or is it rather helping us to be creative?
Oh yeah, it can be very creative. And I think we also, again, we need to define and subset a little bit. There are a lot of different models out there. There are like, you know, hundreds and hundreds that are battling each day on what is the best language model. And some of these are open source and don't even have any guardrails or any censorship. So currently I would really, you know, advise people to think more about what is the model, that not talk about it as an AI, but talk about which language model do I want to work with and why. That's the real questions we should be talking about.
That's another question I had. But yeah, let's maybe answer. Let's give the other three the chance to discuss this creativity question in case you want to add something to that. So would you? I mean, you said something like, right? You would rather use AI to search instead of Googling, or to find answers instead of Googling them.
Yeah, I think the question is, like, if you look at filmmaking in general, or content creation or creativity, I think for any format you do, you have the process and you have the creation in the end. The creation kind of comes in the end. You know, like I remember when the first time the RED camera came out, you know, and people came and said, yeah, I'm shooting this idea on the RED camera. You're like, yeah, okay, but what's the idea? What's the script? You know, like, what do you want to tell? This comes first. This I kind of see as the process, the concept, like what you want to tell, and like what's your idea. And so I think often the conversation is about what can AI do? Like what can you create in the end with voice, and that you don't realize, is this person AI created or is it real? And there, of course, like the things that will happen are crazy. I think like everything will be possible. But what I think is interesting to talk about the process as well before you start creating. You know, like how can you embrace AI and integrate it into your production process that helps you to get there, like before you start to create. And I think there, like for instance, we use it a lot for briefings, you know, like because you have specific ideas or mood boards, you know, like how do you want to create specific scenes, and you still have a person in the end who creates the visuals. Is it 3D or animated, for instance? But then you want to brief, and you have this idea in your head, for instance, how you want to look like, the props, the lighting, and everything a director or a creative director has in his head. And I think this is part of the process, right? You're not creating yet. And like so far, what we did, we just looked for mood images, and you can like look forever to find that right picture you want to use for your briefing. But now with DALL-E or Midjourney or ChatGPT or whatever it is, with the idea in your head, you can cut that process down. In the end, it's still people who will create it, but to brief it, it can be a great part of your process, as with research, as with understanding the world thanks to AI. So I think it's two things. It's really the creation, which allows everything, but then what does it mean for the process, which starts at the moment you say, I have an idea in my head, you know, where maybe AI will help you to find out it's not a film in the end, but it's something else. And I see that's part of the process. And there, I think there's tons of opportunities as well for us storytellers, filmmakers, creatives.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah, I feel I feel it's a bit of a question of double context in a sense. So firstly, you have the context of what it is you're trying to make. If you want, do you want it to generate images? Do you want it to do research? What do you need for the project that you're working on? That's the one context that you need to figure out first. The second context has a lot to do with what Mats just was saying. Like, what's your proficiency with what's your context in the world and working with AI? What do you know and what don't you know? And there's only really one way to advance yourselves in that sphere, and that is to try stuff out. And as Mats was saying, hundreds of thousands of words that are not used in a script, and that's what you'll be getting. We made a series for Swedish television about, it was a 24-episode Christmas advent calendar with Sami indigenous children creating a story with the help of AI. Now, it took them 15 minutes to go from, oh, this is wonderful with AI, to go, that this is an artificial idiot. How the hell can't it even make an axe? You know, so it's basically double context, the context of your project, but also the context of yourself in the world of generative AI. Yeah.
And then you said in our preparation meetings that AI is kind of a hype in that festival too. So what do you see, or what would you say, what are the things you find promising and what are things you might find challenging or don't find interesting at all around using generative AI in documentary filmmaking?
In general, all these projects we just mentioned, for somehow we also want to bring to the festival in Paris. And our festival is a public festival, meaning I run the professional part, I run the market, but the festival is open to general public. So it's very, it's of our interest to bring as many projects as possible to the public. Having said that, we have not really been able to bring these content or experiences to Paris first, because of the language barriers, because all these content being using generative AI or open AI, they are all mainly made in English. So for them to be able to show in Paris or maybe in Asia, where I'm from, Taiwan, in Chinese, I'll have to redo everything. So it's something tricky also in terms of distribution, because when you go to a professional film festival, professionals don't really care about the language barriers. But if you bring it to non-English speaking world, it's something that when you prepare, when you start to create, maybe you also want to prepare for multiple linguistic versions. And certain festivals are very focusing on technology evaluation. So that's my personal and humble observation. I think Sundance and ITFA, these two are very, very technology-driven. They select contents that has a very huge tech component in the creative process of the projects. And for instance, New Frontier Sundance this year, they only have 2 pieces and also a rounded AI. Otherwise, it can be a hype, but I think that in the immersive creation world, the Apple Vision Pro is probably what I see the most when people do their pitching in the market. Not necessarily AI. They see AI as a means of helping their process, or using AI as a narrative. Narrative inspiration, more than the whole. But again, I think in the immersive creation world, we are just not that. There are a few, these projects I just mentioned, they are actually made by certain studios, 2 or 3, and they are mostly based in New York. So voila, it's not back in the Europe and especially Western Europe. In the last 2 years, we haven't really identified a studio or a creator using AI for immersive creation.
And you said most of the projects you saw are around Apple Vision Pro, so they have projects which can be consumed with the Apple Vision Pro. This is the
There are a few, one or two are coming out. I think in Venice this year, they already saying that there are a few will be using Apple Vision Pro to show their experience. I personally think it's very brave. How do you port what is, that is usually shown on HTC Vive or Meta Quest to Apple Vision Pro? And this morning I was visiting the studio. I wanted to try the Apple Vision Pro, but I was wearing my glasses. So it's basically impossible to do it. So this is a very, I don't know if it's a hype. I think these two A's are probably hypes in the creative world. Of course, when you come to the market, you need to be able to stand out in front of decision makers, and you want to say, "Hey, I know what is going on." So you say that, yes, I will use Apple Vision Pro as one of the medium or the headsets to use. But when you come back to examine this headset specifically, it's basically 180 3D, and if you already have a 6 immersive interactive piece, how are you gonna do it? Yeah, it's just really, I think there are certain people who are not sure about using AI in general in their filmmaking. So the trends or the doubts or the questions are more or less the same.
To me, that sounds like it's the result of a hype. Apple Vision Pro is failing on the market right now, right? So maybe it's not a good idea to pitch projects with that. But yeah, how can we make sure that our productions and projects are not existing just because it's a hype? How can we make sure that there's something more behind it? That in the direction I think Simon or Robin said, is that you start with an idea and that you don't start with asking whatever the chatbot, please write a documentary for me. How can we make sure that we use it in a good way? What would you say? That's the question to all of you, whoever is first. Mats.
I don't want to necessarily answer that question. I just want to state that virtual reality and artificial intelligence is definitely not a hype. It's not a hype, and it's going to be around for a very long time, and it's going to get better and better, and it only has become better and better. I've been in immersive storytelling for the past 10 years, since the first Oculus headset, and it's crazy how far we've come. And now with the convergence of artificial intelligence that can generate 3D assets and create virtual worlds that can be generated, these two things are converging in a way that I don't think anyone understands the full scope of this. So just to say I just needed to say that.
Usually that's my role to say I really believe in VR, and I really do. I just felt like Apple Vision Pro was over.
Yeah, we can talk about one headset. It doesn't really matter, right? Because it's a headset.
Don't do that. No, it's okay.
Whatever. It's there will be another Apple Vision, not a Pro, and then we'll see. The first iPhone was also not like.
Yeah, but of course, you can always find things where people said, "Well, we will never use that." Everything, right? And then it went big. But there are many other things. But yeah, that's another discussion. What did you show with that documentary? What did you? So when Herzog said AI will fail,
yes.
Do you think it's a proof that it didn't fail, or?
I think it's up to the audience to see. I would love to hear your reactions when the film comes out, of what you feel when you see this film, because for me, the whole point of making a film on this challenge, so to speak, is more to sort of sit there in the audience and then question: do I want to be told a story from something that was written by an AI? What does it mean that something comes with an intention and an idea, as you said? What does it mean that there's an original author behind it, or is a synthesized authorship? Is that also moving, or what are these questions that we are all struggling with? How do we feel about it? And we wanted you to be confronted with that in the cinema.
Simon, looks like you want to.
No, just building on what you just said. That's where I think the documentary film scene has a strength in the world of artificial intelligence. In what you were just saying, who is the sender, who is the author, what is the entity behind the story? Because authenticity, we were talking when we spoke before this, that the philosopher Daniel Dennett, who sadly passed away last week, in one of his last interviews, he talked about AI and said that it's probably the thing that can erode trust in each other the most right now. And I think that's where documentary filmmaking has a strength, that you can actually have an authentic sender. You can be sure that it's the person that you feel is the director that actually is the director. And that's something, that authenticity and that trust is something that needs to be taken into consideration and be cherished, because that's one of the strengths we have.
Just a quick comment on that. Sometimes when I get this question, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how the emergence of synthetic fabric in the clothing industry suddenly created allergies for people that we hadn't heard of before, right? So the whole idea that I think there will be a complete and utter response to synthetic media in the same fashion, which will be, it's allergic. You know, I'll get it. I don't want it. I want something that's original and feels authentic and feels like I can understand where the source is. And, you know, I think this will be a very clear path forward for filmmakers.
And if I can add a little bit onto that, then I think it's, if there's something we need to take at heart, is that we perhaps have to come out from behind the camera and the screen and the script a bit more and be actual senders and authors of these films and of this series, not only to our colleagues and the commissioners and the people in the pitching sessions, etc., but also to the general audience, so that they can feel that we really are the people behind our stories, and we keep that authenticity going from project to project. So that's something that we might need to take into consideration and work more on.
Agreed.
Robin, what are your learnings from? Oh, you don't have a mic. Sorry, I was just wondering because you didn't take it up. I thought you maybe don't want to say anything. Yeah, what are your learnings from your experiences so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think coming to your questions, how AI, or from our experience, can help that we create something which matters, or I think with any technology, whether it's the Apple Vision Pro or technologies we don't know yet, I think the projects which are the best, whether it's documentary or feature films or an app or whatever format it is, it's the one that matter to us, you know, like which touch our hearts, which entertain us, which like, that's what works, I think. And that this is what will work in the future. This will work in 10 years and 20 years. I'm very, very sure that if I think it touches myself, right? So now if I ask myself, if we create non-fiction films and I use some kind of AI, and I don't know how I will use that, but I'm saying, well, I want to make a socially relevant story which matters to people and touches their heart. Then, and now I ask myself, how can I use AI? I think there are tons of opportunities, you know, like whether it is, well, where do I want to distribute my project? Maybe the AI can help me, how do I get to the people that they care about a certain subject? Just to find out, what do people think? You know, like I could talk to 100 or 1,000 people, or I could try to use AI that it matters, you know, like, or tell a touching story where all of a sudden I create something and all our trees are gone. You know, we could make a story where we make AI take all the trees away in the world. Would that be nice? Probably not, you know, because it touches ourselves, but it tells a scenario which goes into our hearts to matter about the environment. So I think it's like, it starts to get interesting if we start to embrace technology in a way that we still go for the core of the stories that matter, you know, like that people feel touched. And that's kind of how we try to embrace it, that we use it more as a service for storytelling and not that the technology is in front of it.
So you say you would ask, for example, a chatbot, what questions you would have to your audience, and hope that because it's based on training data of the whole internet, it has an idea or a feeling, or at least knows the patterns, what people find touching, or what they would want to see.
Yes, I mean to make this clear, we're not doing this yet. This was just an example, but I mean recently for a I mean, coming to that question, we worked with a Danish company which is called Publicum IO, and they pretty much use data to understand how certain topics are received. So kind of before you start script writing, you try to find out how do certain topics matter in what parts of the world. And so we kind of did that with the VR film we are working on, which is about peace and war. And because especially now it's a very, people are interested in these topics, but you also have to be careful, you know, like what do people think about these topics and how do you embed that into your storytelling? So, and so there I see a huge opportunity, but we just had a glimpse view how that could be used. So, and I think there's endless opportunities, but I think we should try not to lose the core of what we have been doing the last hundreds of years. Like, it's storytelling in the end. It's like touching hearts and that people care.
I would like to open the discussion for the audience. If there are already questions, otherwise there's one question.
I'm really interested in what you say about Publicum, using data to predict audience reception. That sounds really interesting. Kind of feels like the nightmare scenario where you go to pitch to a commissioner at a channel and they tap your idea into Publicum and say, sorry, there's no reception.
The machine says no.
Machine says no. So, you know, it feels like for every kind of advance, there are kind of great big bear traps that might be in our way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's, of course, I think with every new technology, there comes chances and there comes dangers. You know, like you have to have in mind. And of course, we have to hope that commissioning editors or TV stations and publishers, they don't have the people sitting there who will do that, right? But who are open. How can we use that for our benefit? And I mean, just to say, I'm not an expert looking into the future of publishing and how can we use AI to predict things. And I certainly don't want to make, produce, and tell stories where I predict first whether it will be a success in the world. And I think we have to be very, very careful in that, because I think in the future it will be easier to find out if something might be a success, because it just will be easier to process data with AI. But I think, you know, formats like DOK.fest are the best example, you know, where you look into art house as well and indie films, etc. And I think we had that discussion already prior to AI, you know, and I think it is very important to tell niche things which might not attract millions or 100,000s of people. But yeah, I mean, I think my point really is to try to find out where does it make sense to plug in technology in the most in the best and respectful way. And I think also after this there will be discussion. We haven't talked about ethical questions, etc.
That's the next panel, sorry.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, of course, we can start with the topic, but we will discuss this even deeper. If there's, there's a question, and Mats wanted to add something, as long as the mic is working now. Okay, add real quick something.
Yeah, it was just a quick comment to this question of the audience data. I think really a major thing that we might see in the future regards to AI is more of the real-time conversational storytelling, where things become something that happens uniquely for one audience member. I think instead of thinking, sometimes we end up thinking this linear fashion in filmmaking, where it's like, oh, we have to write a script and then we make it and we produce it, we distribute it. But the fact is that more and more is becoming real-time, engine-based, interactive, and now with the power of AI, you can have a conversational story that's between you and the audience. Sorry, that's just what I want to say.
But now we need
just real brief,
real quick
to add on that. I mean, our content is important for the most part, and it can be interesting to the audiences, but it's the conversations that the audiences have around our content or after our content that gives added value and a lot of value to the audiences. And if AI can augment that, then that's a good thing.
Great. Thanks a lot. We have these discussions, of course, in journalism already, right? Because you can measure very easily if how many people are interested in this and that angle and perspective. And as you said, we have to be careful that we don't kill all the niche things and just make mainstream things. So, but now it's your turn.
I totally agree that documentary filmmaking is probably safe for now from AI-generated videos and images. I just wonder how you all see the problem of the eroding trust, because we saw the images from Sora. They are not there yet, but next year or the year after that, we will have production-ready video generation software that allows us to do anything. And the internet will be flooded with anything. So my fear is that like 2 or 3 years from now, nobody will trust anything anymore. So like filmmaking could be, if we don't like shoot on celluloid and show it on celluloid in the cinema, people will doubt that it's real. So my question is, how do we fight that?
Oh, who can answer that?
Yeah, no, for instance, as you probably know, BBC have put tags on their imagery to say where they have sourced their images, so that you can be sure that they haven't plucked them from some AI generated stuff. That's one way. But another way was what I was alluding to before, that we need to build on the trust people have in us as creators, so that we are consistent in our messages, in our values, and be as transparent as we can be. And if we can't be transparent, then be transparent about why we cannot be transparent. Yeah, so it's we're gonna have to start from scratch and build a trust, like a bank vault full of trust that people can rely on. That if this comes from me as a creator, it's actual stuff, and he's gonna tell me if he's used AI at some point to do something. Yeah.
But we'd probably have to start now with that, because it's already starting on social media that people say, oh, that's AI, and it's not, but still they say it's AI. So we need to be fast.
Maybe that's even a chance, right? Because then you can say you cannot believe anything out there in the internet, but you can believe me. So maybe this is a chance for documentary filmmakers to be the one who is transparent. And is there something, Matt, you wanted to show with your project?
No, I just think I'm probably the wrong person to talk about this, because in this case the film is really fucking with your mind about what's real, right? And of course it's probably the first feature film completely written by an AI. But I
guess it's rather to start this discussion, right? Or
yeah, I just think that there's so many. I mean, when you think about documentary filmmaking through time, I mean, we've always had this discussion about what is authentic about, can we heighten the sense of drama by adding, effects and music, and what is a documentary actually? Herzog would say it doesn't matter what's the truth as long as it's the ecstatic truth and the audience gets your point, right? And so I think this discussion will always be there, even if you go and flag and say, oh, look at me, I'm a documentary filmmaker and you can trust me. I don't think that will work, to be honest.
So what else will work then?
You just have to let go. Like there's going to be, I think we will want to trust what we want to trust, and we will build relations with what we want to trust. And it's always been this way, that the world we see is in the eyes of us. And everything is a fucking hallucination. And if we agree on it, we call it reality, right? So in a sense, it's like this is I think the core that we have to acknowledge as humankind is that we all hallucinate all the time. We're all seeing projections of what our reality is. Let's start to figure out how we agree on things in some good way. I think one way is stepping out and saying, this is me, this is where I'm coming from, this is what, but but it's always going to be for like up for negotiation.
Of course, I mean, people have to decide if they want to trust you as a person. But maybe we could, whatever, give us some rules or things that people can at least, if they decide that they want to trust us, that they can be sure that this is a basis based on these kind of rules, which one might be transparency about the technologies we use and these kind of things. Simon, you want to add something?
I think we should have documentaries that are live dance performances. That's the way to go about it. I'm joking.
Real time. Are there more questions? Here's someone. Okay.
Hi. I just had a question for Mads about the process of making the film, because you said that, you know, it was potentially the first film that's been made, or first feature doc that's been written completely by AI. Can you speak about that process? Like, what do you mean when you say it's like been completely written by AI? Did you have prompts? Did you keep prompting it? Like, what was the process basically?
I'll do it shortly. I explain a little bit in the talk. It's kind of like a waterfall. So from the word something, that was the first word, 2 pages of script came out. A couple of things were interesting. The city Gelsenkirchenburg, which didn't exist on a map, sounded like somewhere in the middle of Germany. What's this place? What's going on? Oh, there's a factory. You investigate, you have a dialogue, you create a lot of text that becomes a pool of text, and then from that you grab what you like, and then you sort of re-feed it or like regurgitate it back to the machine. Like, oh, now we have this. What do you think about this? And then it sort of falls out another pool of text. And so you end up with these pools of text that you've pulled out from and curated, so to speak, a film that you want to make. So it's a dialogue and it's a creation between the machine and the director.
Is it even allowed to call it a documentary?
I don't care.
So what do you think? Yes.
Yeah, a synthetic documentary, I would call it.
That's what you said, but this sounds like it's not fitting together, right? These two words. Isn't that opposite concepts?
Yes, that's why I like it.
Okay.
It is. It could. I mean, it is fiction, but there are also real interviews. I mean, or are there? No, I mean, a lot of what what these like Stephen Fry is saying is something he said in real life. So there's we just play around with it. You never know exactly what is what.
There's one question, or is the mic somewhere else already?
Here, if I'm allowed. Very shortly.
And the next question is over there. Okay.
Thank you a lot. Hamza Bitucci from the Roma Film Festival. I'm really curious about, we are talking still about art, and then we are laughing if we say it's a mockumentary. If a party or a government try also to do some mockumentaries, I don't know where we'll go. So that it will change for sure, and we can't stop it, but I don't know where here in the room, where is the critic of this is art, this is a documentary or not, and somebody will use it for other purpose.
Like propaganda or something.
For example. But of the other side, what is it now? We need a stamp or a flag or what you said. So it will change, and then means like in German you have a vegan stamp or a grüner Punkt or whatever, so it's true or not. And then we will create it now or not. And yeah, that would be my question.
The stamp of authenticity. That's the question, right? Like, should we have this branding that it says it's, yeah, maybe. I don't want it.
You won't get it.
I won't get it.
I guess.
I'm not going to get the facts straight, but there is an initiative going on that is by something called Archive Documentaries of America or something like a newly formed organization, an initiative to basically have a framework for using AI in documentary filmmaking. And this is from archivists who are obviously a little bit concerned about what's happening with archive material as more AI is being generated every second. So there is an initiative going on, which is now going out to universities, to policymakers, etc., to have a framework to lean on. So there is stuff in the making. What will come out of it, I'm not sure, but it's at least someone is thinking about it.
Since the time is running, I think
can I do this?
You have the
question?
chance, the honor to ask the last question. Yeah.
Hi, Jana, Mia Media. I have a question on Mads, and just in this very concrete case, it's still a tool, the AI. How many time and how many money did you spare or did you save?
Oh, save.
With using
Oh,
AI.
wow, that's a great question. The film cost €1 million. I think that, I mean, we're still in post-production. We just had picture luck. So many things can happen. But I truly believe this film should have cost, with Herzog as a talent, with the VFX, with the voiceover, it should have cost at least €5 million. If I would have now budgeted it the way I see the films progressing. But a lot of that is also sweat and tears from the creators. Like any documentary film is like a lot of sweat and tears and invested time.
And in regards of time?
It took a long time, but that was mainly because it took time to finance, because we were a little bit ahead of the curve. So when we said AI film, they were like, why? And then suddenly it was really fast and easy to finance.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, last question.
Sorry, what's again? Yes.
The question is he aware that he cannot copyright it?
Yeah, it's free. You can all use it as much as you want.
Okay. How many millions? From who? Well, just a short remark regarding these legal implications. Of course,
there's a panel for that. That's tomorrow. Sorry.
But you use the Süddeutsche Zeitung logo on the left of the woman there, and you will get a lawsuit for it. Well, it was in the picture when the woman speaks.
The daily newspaper,
desk,
right? And from that.
On the left, you have a newspaper.
Oh, really?
And it's Süddeutsche Zeitung.
Oh.
Well, it's another word.
It's written
this
written
village. In the characters or the
it says Kirchenburger Zeitung.
Yeah, but it's the fonts and the logo of Süddeutsche, and that's copyrighted.
But actually we have a collaboration with Süddeutsche. They wrote an article on us. Okay. So it's all good.
Oh, so this was kind of product placement in that movie. So there are really many questions. We are still open until now. So it's sad that we now have to go to have some coffee and a short break because there are still so many questions. But maybe we can discuss some of them over coffee or see each other the rest of the day. Thank you very much. That was so inspiring, and I can't wait to have more discussions. Thanks a lot.